Films Online, TFO for short. TFO was founded almost on a whim by Professor Nikhila and myself in June 2020 during the lockdown. Since then, TFO has had uninterrupted discussions on films from all over the world every Saturday at 9 p.m. on Zoom. It is a group of film scholars, researchers, students, teachers, and anyone passionate about cinema. It has been our practice to invite people to select and lead the discussion of the chosen film, which we watch in our own time and place. On some occasions, filmmakers, editors, and cinematographers is there some problem? Somebody's audio?
No, now it's set right.
Oh, okay. Cinematographers have also joined our sessions. Aparna Sen, Amol Palekar, Girish Kasarvalli, and Adur Gopalakrishnan, to name a few. We have held film festivals such as East European, Iranian, Women's Cinema, and others. In the month of June each year, to celebrate our anniversary, we hold a smartphone short film making contest for students and a lecture series in various university departments. This evening, we discuss the film Roma. Sana Zaidi will initiate the discussion. Sana is currently pursuing a PhD in Latin American literature at Jamia Millia Islamia, Delhi. She has a master's degree in English literature and has taught English as a foreign language in Venezuela, Spain, and Chile. Her interest in Latin American culture has led her to learn Spanish and pursue programs in Spanish grammar and phonetics at the University of Veracruz in Mexico. Her areas of interest include gender studies and marginalized communities. Welcome, Sana, and over to you.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Thank you, ma'am, for introducing me. Okay, so I would start. So Roma, the movie, it's a critically acclaimed movie written, directed, co-produced, and shot by Alfonso Cuarón. That was released in 2018. And the movie is known for the marvelous cinematography, cultural representation of Mexico, its direction, the storyline, and the fact that the movie is made in black and white, which was a very bold move by Alfonso Cuarón. And definitely it worked really well. So the movie received widespread acclaim from critics and audiences alike, winning numerous awards, including the Academy Award for Best Director, making Cuarón the first Mexican filmmaker to win the award twice. The film's success has helped the Mexican cinema to elevate to a greater profile to the international stage. So before I start talking about the movie, I would like to talk about the Mexican history a bit. So the Spanish conquest took place in around 1519 when the Spanish colonizers came to Latin America. In 1519, the Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés arrived in Mexico. And with the help of indigenous allies who were enemies of the Aztecs, Aztecs were the people, the empire that was there in 1519 in Mexico. That was the last empire in Mexico. So these native people were living there, and they were conquered by the Spanish conquerors by 1521, marking the beginning of Spanish colonial rule in Mexico. And this colonial period lasted till 1810. The Spanish implemented a system known as encomienda, which granted Spanish colonists control over indigenous communities and their labor. This led to the exploitation and oppression of indigenous people who were forced to work under the Spanish colonizers. And they suffered a lot. They were forced to work in mines, on plantations, and in other um, uh, s- situations where which were really harsh, labor intensive industries, plantations, and all the work that the Spanish colonizers would not do. So Mexican War of Independence took place in 1810 to 1821, which was led by figures such as Miguel Hidalgo and Jose Maria Morelos. Mexico fought and achieved the independence from Spanish colonial rule in 1821. But despite getting independence, indigenous people continued to face discrimination, marginalization, and economic hardships. Land reforms and policies aimed at bettering their situation or aimed at assimilating them with other people. On the contrary, these situations they made their life even harder. They resulted into the loss of their lands and even their cultural identity. So instead of the situation working in favor of them, assimilating them with the other people, it uh, took away whatever they had, including lands and their culture. So from 1910 to 1920, Mexican Revolution took place and brought about significant social um, and political change in Mexico, including land reforms and recognition of indigenous rights. However, many of these promises were not completely fulfilled, and indigenous communities continued to struggle for autonomy, land rights, and preservation of their culture as well. Now, in recent decades, again, there has been a growing awareness and appreciation of Mexico's indigenous heritage. The Mexican government has implemented policies aimed at promoting indigenous rights, education, and cultural preservation. However, indigenous communities still face challenges related to poverty, discrimination, and land rights. Throughout Mexico's history, indigenous people have played a vital role in shaping the country's culture, traditions, and identity. Today, Mexico is home to numerous indigenous groups with each with its own unique language, customs, and worldview, contributing to country's rich cultural diversity. The indigenous culture is very visible in Mexico and some of the other Latin American countries like Bolivia, Ecuador, and Peru, because when the European comes in some of the countries like Uruguay and Argentina, the people who were already there, the Native Americans, the indigenous people, they died right when they came in contact with the European invaders because of the diseases that the invaders brought along with them. So they didn't even have to do anything. The half of the population was washed off. But in Mexico, when you see there are still indigenous people, the culture is still there, preserved, and the government is also working to make the situation better for them. But still, there are there is discrimination. Even I was in Venezuela in 2015, so this is something that I observed myself, that the indigenous people were discriminated there. The economic situation of Venezuela was already, not really good, and people had to stand in lines to buy food and flour and sugar and just the basic things for them. So I would always see these people who visibly looked native standing in long lines because they didn't have money. There were other places where you could go and buy things for more money, but these government places, they gave out food, the basic necessities for a lower price. So these people would stand there, they would buy, and they were so economically weaker, financially not that well, that they would buy these things and they would walk to Colombia, to the border, to sell these things for a little higher price. So Venezuelans, they used to look down upon them. I mean, this is something that I saw colleagues talking about them. That look at them, they're stealing our food, they're buying it and then selling it there. They're bachaqueros, and bachaqueros is a derogatory term that they use for these people. So Now, the situation of indigenous people is not that well in a lot of countries still. Now I'm coming back to the movie. Alfonso Cuarón portrays the most important aspect of the Mexican culture by picking Cleo as the main character in his movie. And Cleo is an indigenous person, and Cuarón provides by introducing her as the main character, he provides a platform for marginalized voices and experiences. Cleo is a domestic worker who is working for this upper middle class family. Um, the film is also important because it's semi-autobiographical account of Cuarón's upbringing in Roma, which is a place in Mexico City. And in the movie, the movie is set up in 1970s. So whatever Cuarón has written, it's from his memory of his childhood, which gives the movie a very personal touch and adds authenticity and depth to the movie. Cuarón wrote the story, adding the details that he remembered from his childhood, also sticking to the minutest of details of the house where he lived and the city where he was, Roma in Mexico City, creating an ambience of nostalgia and longing. About the movie, Cuarón says, you know, about introducing his personal details and his experiences from his childhood. He says that we are a product of the bonds of affection around us, but at the same time we are a product of the time in which we flow, and with time comes a sense of space, and those things are an attempt to register a memory as pure as I had it. So this is exactly what Cuarón tries to do in the movie. That whatever he remembers from his childhood, he tries to portray it there the best he could. It is the movie is majorly celebrated for its cinematography. The film's use of long takes, naturalistic performances, and attention to detail set it apart as a work of art. When you look at the movie, you'd see that the camera stays at one place in one of the where you could just appreciate things being there. Appreciate, there was this scene in the movie where when the family has gone to celebrate Christmas, they've gone to the family house during the vacation. So there's a table and there are glasses, there's a bottle of milk for the child, and there are certain antiques on the table. So the camera, it just stays there, and I was watching the movie and I looked at it and I was like, it's a piece of art. So it happens at many instances during while you're watching the movie, that you're just there, the camera is there, and you're looking at the art that the movie is. So Cuarón consciously chooses black and white for his movie to take us back into time. Black and white also gives a sort of nostalgia. It also reminded me of the black and white movies of of our Indian movies like Mughal-e-Azam, and there was this other movie I cannot remember the name, where the song is "Pyar Hua Ikrar Hua," with the song. So it definitely using black and white for the movie. It helps take us back into time. And as the camera stays in one place, the dialogues could be heard without being spoken through the cinematography. Throughout the movie, through long camera takes, we are allowed to appreciate the antique setting. There's another scene where Cleo is doing some work, and the camera focuses on Cleo. And Cleo, after getting done with her work, she moves into the house, but the camera stays there, and we see an old time
Sorry, Sana, can
Sorry,
you unmute? Unmute yourself.
Have I been mute throughout the?
No. Just the last one or two sentences. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I completely freaked out. I was like, I've been speaking.
No. We wouldn't have let you do that.
Okay, thank you so
Yeah.
much for it.
Yeah.
Okay. So so through the cinematography, the dialogues could be heard even when nobody is speaking through the scenes. For example, there is a scene where Cleo is doing some work, and once she gets done with the work, she leaves. She goes inside, but the camera stays there. And while Cleo is working, our attention is completely on Cleo and what she's doing. But when she leaves, the camera stays there for a few seconds, and we see an old style staircase. We see a bicycle, old style bicycle, a bucket sitting right there next to the pot of plant, and especially the birds chirping. So this is, again, it was a piece of art. It was like a painting there, a talking painting. Another scene, while they're on vacation, um, when the forest catches fire. Before we see fire or all the chaos, first the camera focuses on the forest, and we see the forest. Nothing is there, just the forest. And then slowly we see smoke. And a few seconds later, we see fire, and camera just stays there, and then suddenly there's chaos, there's fire and people running around. So this is again one of the things that I really like, that we just there, looking at the piece of art. Again, another thing that I liked was when during the vacation, the all the people, they have lined up and they are dancing in a line. The camera, instead of focusing on their faces or their expressions, it focuses on the lower half of the people. So we see the movements, and the camera focuses on the lower halves of the bodies instead of focusing on their faces as they line up and dance around in the house, letting the movements of the body express instead of the facial expressions. The common thing would be to show the faces and show the joy that is there on the faces of people, but we see the bodies dancing and swinging. And one of the most intriguing scenes is the one where Cleo is having a conversation with another indigenous person, not Adela, the woman that she meets during the vacation, where the woman asks Cleo if she was pregnant, and they're having a conversation about how she's carrying life. And suddenly, while they're talking about Cleo's pregnancy, the woman offers Cleo a drink, and the cup suddenly falls to the floor, and the drink spills. So we see the cup with her drink falls off and the cup breaks into many pieces as it falls to the floor. So the camera, instead of focusing on Cleo's face, it focuses on for a long time. It shows the spill liquid and the broken cup on the floor, which foreshadows the birth of Cleo's dead baby. As we see later that her water breaks while there's chaos on the street, and there are people dying, and the Corpus Christi movement. So as the water breaks, and due to the chaos, she arrives to the hospital late, and she loses the child. So this is one of the moments where anybody would guess how her pregnancy would end, when we see the cup falling off to the floor and the camera, deliberately focusing on the scattered pieces of the cup. Also, when the movie starts, we see the floor, the earth, and then suddenly the water splashes on the floor, and the sky reflects. The sky is reflected on the floor. So the movie begins with the focus on the floor, and the movie ends when they come back from another vacation from the beach, when Cleo is climbing the stairs. The movie ends with Cleo climbing the stairs, and suddenly the camera, shows Cleo going up, and it ends on focusing on the sky. So beginning with Earth, ending with the with focus on the sky. So completing the whole, you can say, the circle of life. Another important thing is Alfonso Cuarón has used Spanish in the movie, and he has also um, used Mixtec, the language, the indigenous language in the movie. And the most of the people who are here, I guess, they have seen the movie with the English translation or translated in English. But there are moments in the movie when the Mixtec language is used. Cleo and Adela, the other house help, they talk to each other in Mixtec and Spanish as well. There are several themes in the in the movie, like gender discrimination. There is the themes revolve around gender discrimination, class difference, and difference of race as well. Even though Sophia, who is the owner, and Cleo is from another class and she's from another race. They are from two different situations, but they face similar challenges. This is one of the things that I observed here. So when talking about gender discrimination, when the family goes to spend vacations to the family house, there's a scene where they have guns and they're shooting. There's a conversation between men. One of the men says, "Watch out, Pepe. Your wife is going to become guerrilla. She's guerrilla fighters because she's using the gun." He says she's going to become guerrilla. She's going to expropriate your hacienda. Hacienda is the land. The other one says, "Nah, I'll whack her first." So this is something that we see happening in a higher class, in a civilized race and society. The same thing happens with Cleo when she goes to look for Fermin, her boyfriend who had promised to marry her, but he abandons her. So she goes to look for him, and she reaches the place where he's practicing the martial art, the art with the sticks. When she goes there and she tells him that she's pregnant with his child and how he had abandoned her, how he had disappeared, he denies being the father, and he leaves her saying, "You fucking servant." So this gender discrimination is something that we see in both the classes and both the societies. Another theme is in the movie is female bond. When Cleo finds out that she's pregnant, she is really scared. She's really anxious. She goes back to the to the house, and she goes to Sophia and sits down to talk to her. And when she tells her about her pregnancy, she was expecting to get fired. She was expecting something else, but Sophia, she shows kindness. She supports her. She is worried for her. She right away takes her to the hospital to get her checkup done. So this female bond is what we see here. Also, when later Sophia finds out about her husband cheating, and she's devastated. She comes back home. So Sophia, when she comes back home, she goes to Cleo and she says, "We women, we are alone. No matter what they tell you, we women, we are alone." There's also a theme of silence and chaos. Sophia and Cleo, despite of being from different race and class, they go through the same challenges with their men, as I mentioned. While Sophia's husband cheats on her, she responds with chaos. For example, she brings colors and paper to the kids, and she wants them to write. And she has a doubt on her husband. She's not yet sure. And when one of the kids he leaves without taking the paper and writing to the father, she gets angry and she starts shouting. She wants the kid to come back and write to the father, so the father comes back somehow to her. Another example is when Sophia's husband is leaving. As he says, he would come back after a few weeks. She already has some idea. Probably she hugs him, but he's cold. He leaves, and Sophia is just standing there, and suddenly we see a marching band with trumpets and um, loud music. So instead of Sophia expressing her anger or anything, we see loud thumps, we hear trumpet, we hear chaos. While in Cleo's case, she's mostly silent. For example, when she's sitting with Fermin in the movie hall and she tells him that she's pregnant with the child, Fermin leaves right away and never comes back. She's just sitting there, and the camera just focuses on the movie, that is the movie about war. There is destruction, there are gunshots, there is a whole chaos going on. So, but Cleo, she remains silent. She sits there. When he insults her again, she's quiet. She doesn't say anything. When she's taken to the hospital, she loses the child. Cleo quietly sobs. She doesn't show any emotion. She's mostly silent. So there is this theme of silence and chaos that Cuarón has chosen for each of these women. But then instead of the women being, despite of these two women being different, they have similarities. They share this female bond. So Cleo stays silent throughout the suffering, but in the end, she breaks her silence when they're at the beach and two of the kids nearly drown. She goes and she risks her own life to save the kids. But when she's at the shore with the kids, she hugs them and she sobs. And that's where she breaks the silence and she says that she never wanted the child in the first place, the child that she lost. So there is one thing that I observed in the movie. There's this myth in Mexican culture. It's called the myth of La Llorona. I don't know how many of you know about myth of La Llorona. So according to the myth of La Llorona is the weeping woman. It's one of the most famous legends in Mexican folklore. It has its root in pre-Columbian and colonial times and has passed down through generations. So according to this myth, this story typically revolves around a beautiful woman named Maria who lived in a small village. Maria was known for her beauty and charm, but was also known to be vain. She married a wealthy man, and had two children with him. However, over time, Maria's husband lost interest in her and became more focused on his work and wealth. This is one version. Another version says that she was a woman. And she was kept as a mistress because of the class difference. So this man had kids with this woman, Maria, and when his family found suitable woman for him, he went ahead and got married to another woman. But this woman, Maria, she got really angry that she killed the children. She drowned the children. She went and drowned the children, and then she also. But when she did that, after she drowned the children, she was guilty and she looked for her children everywhere. She went mad. She was on the streets looking for her children. So this is the myth that a lot of writers have also used in literature. with different variations of La Llorona. Also, in Mexico, when the kids don't sleep, the mothers tell them, "Oh, if you don't sleep, La Llorona will come and she'll take you away and drown you." So there are different variations, different versions. So here, I could see that these women could be related to La Llorona, because La Llorona did what she did because the man abandoned her. So she killed the children because the man abandoned her. Here, it's another. We could see that these women were abandoned by men in their lives, and even though Cleo loses her child, she she's so close to Sophia's children that when two of the kids, they are they're drowning in the end, she risks her own life to go and save them, and she brings them to the shore. So she would rather risk her life and rather die than let her kids drown. So, but then again, it shows uh, those undertones of the myth of La Llorona here. Here again, the ocean, it represents um, starting life all over again. um, as they go back from the vacation to the house, and everyone is silent throughout the way. And once they get there, we see that there are piles of books in the house, as Sophia is going to start working and take care of the family. So the man, I noticed that the man has been replaced with a pile of books, and the kids, they look at it. One of the kids says, "Oh, I don't like it," but the other kid says, "No, I like it this way better." Uh, so yeah, I enjoyed watching the movie, and I hope you all also enjoyed watching the movie. Now I would open the floor for comments and questions or anything. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sana. It was a wonderful presentation. You familiarized us with Mexican history and the legend of La Llorona. And as you were saying it also, I could see how beautifully it fits into the narrative of this film. I was not aware of this myth, so thank you so much for that. It's now open for discussion, but before we open, there was just one thing I wanted to ask you, or something that struck me, and that is the role the dogs play in the film. The dogs, yeah, the dogs, because you have a lot of scenes with dogs in it, so somewhere I thought there was that kind of contrast between the way humans are bonding with dogs but unable to bond with other humans. You have and there is a lot of opening and closing of gates, in the film. All the time, Cleo is coming down the stairs to open the door, and then each time she has to open the gate, she has to hold back Boras. So there's a lot happening in the film at a symbolic level. No, I had watched the movie even before you had recommended it for TFO, and even at that time, the role of the dogs somehow had struck me. And even when I watched it a second time, and even during and they are omnipresent, even during the Corpus Christi shootouts, you have the barking of dogs as a kind of a background sound, the ambient sound. And talking of sound, I think Cuarón has deliberately, stayed away from giving that, typical traditional background music as such. And he rather sticks to ambient sounds, which adds, uh, to maybe the realism in the film, if we may say so. So these are some of my thoughts. I'll now open it up for discussion. If you wish to respond, you may respond, Sana. Otherwise, we can take more comments, questions, whatever.
I would just say a little thing about the sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also observed it while they were taking Cleo to the hospital. If they want, these days when we watch movies, there is music that shows the ambience of the scene,
The tension.
the tension and everything. But there you hear a honking of the cars, you hear uh, the sirens of ambulance, and then the thumping of feet, and trumpets, and all of that. So I think it added more to the whole idea of the scene. And
Right.
like without expressing, without speaking, there was a lot going on. We could hear more through these sounds and through the pictures. About Borras, about the dog, I did not observe it, but now when you said it, I was thinking about it, and I think dogs, they represent loyalty and innocence. So I think dragging Boras again and again back in the house and not letting him go, it was somewhere that longing to keep that innocence, to have to have people who are loyal, because here there are two men and they're not loyal to these
Loyal.
women. So this is that effort to have something that would be loyal to them, to someone who would be loyal to them.
Right. Yes, it's now open for discussion. Yeah, Nikhila.
Yeah, Sana, thanks for the overview. It helped us to kind of, place the film in its context. I think there was a lot of background information that now helps us to see the film, more clearly. A couple of points. Yes, like Geeta said, the sound design was also something that I thought of. I mean, it's so predominant. And probably as a sign of the film's realism, the evocation of realism through sound, and so on. I was also thinking of the way in which the film spectacularly constructs the intersections, and also at the same time the differences between the two worlds. The world of the family, in probably many times in the upstairs realm, and then they have to climb down the stairs or go up the stairs or whatever. So it's like they are different worlds. They are intersecting, intermingling. There is a lot of Cleo is absolutely essential to the running of the household, and yet it is a world that is apart. So the way in which the film kind of without overt criticism it's not telling us this hierarchy is bad, or this opposition, but clearly there are two worlds out there that we get to see. And also the conversations that happen among the people, among Cleo and her friends, Adila and others. So it's like it's a world that only they share, as if they leave it behind when they enter into the main house. So I thought that comes across very well in the film. The other aspect which fascinated me, like Geeta, I think I watched Roma, but I didn't mind watching it again. So I watched it almost like a new film this time. So after watching some of his films, I also looked for other films familiar with. So it was quite an intriguing film for me. And Children of Men, a futuristic film. They all seem like such different genres, and so such a wide range of repertoire of styles of filmmaking, modes of narration that Koran's films are exploring. I thought it was wonderful. Thanks for suggesting the film. I didn't mind it watching again at all. Thank you, Sana.
Thank you. Great observations.
Any other interventions?
I would like to mention,
Yeah, please.
like, she just mentioned how they were two worlds apart. Cleo, Adela, and their friends, and again the house where they worked. They were separated by the idea of class and race. But then Sophia and Cleo and all these people, they were, they were brought together on idea of being women. I think this is also one of the, you know, lingering themes there. Being woman, being of one class, being of one being of one class, being of one race, and then there is a being of one sex, that is a woman. So this is something that brought them together, and you know. Uh,
That's true. Clearly, there is this question of female solidarity there. Any other interventions, questions, comments? That scene in the hospital, Sana, where in quite graphic detail, the director shows the birth of the stillborn child. I mean, it's a heart-wrenching scene, I was actually tearing up watching that. But somewhere I got the feeling that, in the script, it was also a point of, convenience in the plot, because I was just thinking, if the child had survived, would Cleo have been able to, give the kind of attention, the affection that she gives to the children of Sophia, and also whether Sophia would have, accepted Cleo into the family with the kind of eagerness that she does in the end, because now she knows that, Cleo has nobody to distract her, and she will, be completely engaged with looking after my children. So, I mean, it was a thought. I don't know if I'm over reading into it, but it
I
just
think I think it's a great observation. I believe that Sophia would have accepted her with the child as well, because Sophia herself was suffering and the kids were really close to Cleo. But then
that's true.
the child dying, it was needed for the plot to end the way it did, because otherwise she wouldn't be able to be there with them during their
Ex
vacations to save the kids. And somewhere the plot turns towards, uh, the the superior race. Cleo is
Hmm.
needed in the family,
Yeah,
so
her
the kid
labor,
has,
her
yeah,
even if it is couched in the vocabulary of love and affection and all that, ultimately her labor is needed for this family to go through their own crisis
exactly,
of the father abandoning them.
exactly, yeah.
Nikhila, you had unmuted.
No, not about this particular point, but about the hospital scene. Why? I was not sure. Is it Antonio who suddenly, the husband who suddenly shows up at the hospital? I was a little curious how is it him who surfaces this as the doctor?
Uh,
Or
he
is
he
someone?
he comes to the hospital. Sophia's husband comes to the hospital, but he's not the one who is with Cleo. He comes and he facilitates the process in the hospital.
Yeah, so I was wondering, I mean, why does he return all of a sudden? So it seemed,
He
yeah,
was a doctor. He was a
yeah.
doctor. He worked at the hospital.
Right, right. That's true. And also, I think there's also a street scene where he suddenly shows up. So it was curious how, again and again, this character is coming up, and we think that he has disappeared because we don't get to see him otherwise in the house once
Yeah.
he leaves. And also, all those car bumping scenes by Sophia, they were hilarious. I mean,
Yes, yes.
as a driver myself, I was like, what is she doing? So
But
some
she
of
that
those
but she
were,
was drunk. She came back in an inebriated state.
yeah.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned that Alfonso Cuarón, he chooses to show Sophia's reactions to the infidelity of her husband through chaos. So this was also one of the chaotic moments, because in the beginning we see the husband coming through that way and the car comes very
Yes.
smoothly. But when Sophia comes, she's angry, she's drunk, she wants to, crash into everything. And it was her inner expression through her bumping of car and shouting and slapping the kid as well.
Right. Any other comments? Pratik, Vasant, Joy, Ishita. Would any of you like to speak? Yagnashri, Tarkeshwar. No, no. Oh, okay. Okay, Tarkeshwar, please go
If there's nobody else, I thought I will pitch in.
ahead.
Yeah, I think the entire racial and then the class differences in the background. What is foregrounded is, as everyone has agreed, has identified, some kind of bond between the women across race as well as class. That seems to be the narrative conclusion. But of course, there are fissures where you can read other things. Because the other things are in the background, we can pick it up and we can expand on them through our knowledge of what class is, what race is. But somehow it gets reduced to bond across a woman's bond across race and then the class. So that was quite intriguing. And the men on both sides are deliberately shown as irresponsible and untrustworthy. Uh, to to have this kind of particular narrative ending. So in that sense, there is a careful selection of the characters across the race or the class to work towards this kind of bond between the women. Um, so that's why I wanted to say. So in that sense, it lacks some kind of complexity. The narrative itself, of course, the theme has complexity as we, with our understanding of the issues and the context and the historical context, we bring things into it. But the narrative itself is, I thought, is slightly simplistic. Work towards a kind of feel-good ending, where the issues of class, issues of gender, issues of race are neatly tucked away. Um, and also this. But some of the shots uh, contribute to the visuals. So in that sense, the narrative and then the editing and the camera, they bring in visuals in this simplistic plot narrative. So in that sense, the visuals complicate the things. Uh, because the earthquake in the hospital, and then as you said, the dropping of the glass in an accident fashion in that there, and then there are many such scenes which speaks through symbolically. That's where I think we need to pitch in, and then we can complicate it. But the narrative itself, uh, I thought is slightly simplistic. But the editing and the visuals, the camera work, make it much more intense and complicated. That's where we can pitch in, and then we can have multiple interpretations of those things. Thank you.
Thank you. It was
Thank
was a great observation.
There is one comment on the chat. Ishita, I really like the black and white aesthetic of the movie. For me, it sort of reflected the mundanity of everyday life, domestic sphere. How do you look at the black and white aesthetics? I think that's a question to you, although you have addressed it in your presentation, but if you would still like to say something, Sana?
Yes, as I mentioned that it was a part, as I mentioned that Quaron, he he whatever he wrote, it was all from his memory, from his childhood memory. The house, the streets, everything was carefully, depicted through his memory. And one of the focuses, one of one of his aims and focuses was on depicting that past. The focus was on nostalgia. So the movie is made in such a way that it takes us back in time in 1970s. So I think to achieve that purpose, he has used black and white, which I also earlier mentioned that it was a very bold move because it could also be seen like you know not using the technology that we have these days. Not only has he used black and white, but also the picture is not as clear as it would be in these times. There is not exactly blurring, but that effect that he has used along with black and white that was used back in 1960s and 70s in the movies that we see in Mughal-e-Azam and that movie that I mentioned. I cannot recall it with the song Pyar Hua, Ikrar Hua. That it takes us back there. So it helps in uh, it helps Quaron in reaching that goal of taking us back in time and introducing us to the Mexico of 1970s of his childhood. Uh, so I think that served the purpose. It could have ruined the movie, but it worked for him because of everything that went along with that black and white. It's not just black and white; it's everything else that accompanied that black and white feature in the movie, I think.
The movie with the song you're mentioning is Shri 420, Sana.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Any more comments? Yes, Joy, please go ahead.
Yeah, hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
It's really nice to get you connected to all because I have been watching movies since long, like at least I am a very big movie explorer, more than 1,000 movies personally I have seen on my PC. So, one thing I was wondering that whenever I am very much interested in seeing all kinds of movies, but whenever I start to see this movie, the initial 5 times, like I feel it's so slow. of course, like I am not being insulting to any of thing. Of course, I appreciate it, and I have heard like from many other people like that it's very great one. I must watch it. But whenever I start to see it, I have tried it multiple times, like two, three times. But initial five times so slow, and I am not able to comprehend that what is the context and all, and I end up just putting it off. So, like, would you like to give me some perspective on that? Number one. And after that, like I will then talk about one more thing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joy. I think we are not able to watch slow movies because our life is, going really fast. We want to do everything quickly. In Delhi, when you're walking on the streets, nobody looks relaxed, especially here. Everybody is rushing towards something, and I think it's everywhere in the world that you're just running for something. But I think movies like this one, where you have to sit patiently and go through the movie and watch it patiently. It takes a lot of patience as well, because the purpose of the movie, especially this one, Aroma, is to take us back in time, uh, to make us feel, you know, uh, the vibe that time had back then. So I understand that movies like these are difficult to watch, because most of the time we're looking for, a story that catches our attention. But here we already know what's happening. We already know that the man is cheating. We don't know the end, but then there is nothing to hold our attention as such. We just have to, watch the movie, because to appreciate what's there. Like I mentioned, that the movie is known for uh, holding the camera uh, to the scenes instead of uh, to people, you know, to allow us to appreciate that, the antiques, the art, the scenery that is there.
Yeah, okay. I will just definitely try to be like more calm and patient to able to comprehend like with time. So the next thing is like since I have been watching movies and very finely observing and analyzing things, minute things. So, of course, like I also wanted to be in such a circle where like we all are just connected, talking mindfully about all its aspects related to our own life and related to the art. So, like, is there any way like I can? I also tried to. I am in presently in college and doing masters in journalism. I have also tried to start some movie club among common-minded such people. So, like, how can I like get connected to you all and like working with you all together? It would be really great if it can happen. Thank you.
I think Geeta ma'am would
Yeah,
answer.
yeah, I was just
It's
about to
my
say.
first time here as well.
Of course, yeah. I was just about to do that. You could connect with us on Facebook, on WhatsApp. You could message us. We could add you to the group. I'm just putting my number in the chat box, and you could send me a message, and I could add you to our group.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I've just added, and Nikhila has also put the Facebook link, so you could connect with us. Yeah, any other questions, comments? Madhurima, would you like to say something?
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, please go ahead.
I don't really have a comment to it, but one of the things that I liked about the film, I will just say that. So I like the way how the movie ends. It almost ends on a note of return to normalcy, especially in the case of the personal lives of the characters. And it almost suggests, like, I felt it suggests a note of hope. And that's what I liked about the film. And I liked how it focuses more than the problems. Of course, it focuses on the problems of the characters, but it also emphasizes on the various survival strategies or techniques or how people are going through their problems. I like that aspect of the film, and thank you for introducing us to the film. And it was my first time watching this type of film. Thank you.
That was a beautiful observation, Madhurima. Mm. Yeah, definitely. It shows hope. It shows normalcy after a big disaster. Because both the women were devastated when when they found out about the men in their life cheating, and then this incident where the kids almost drowned. So it shows, in the end, it shows that uh, with with that there's always a way to start all over again. Uh, so yeah, great observation.
Yeah, and another thing that Geeta ma'am pointed out about the representation of dogs in the film, that is also a question that I had. And I also felt that, I kind of felt that these people from the lower class status or people from these indigenous communities, they sort of have a more closer relationship to the dogs than the people from the upper middle class position. That is something I observed in the film. Thank you.
Uh, that's Yeah. I also saw that Cleo was more attached to Borras, the dog, um, because I think Cleo was someone who always looked for love. She was also, I felt that she was also more attached with the children, more attached than Sophia, the mother. So I think Cleo is represented as a person who has a lot to give, and who would go somewhere where she is shown love. So definitely her connection with the dog as well as the kids was it was very visible there. The bond was very visible.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Are there any more comments, questions? Okay, in that case, we'll conclude this evening's session. Thank you very much, Sana, and thank you all for joining. Have a nice Sunday, and good night.
Geeta, can you
Thank
please
you.
share your number?
I've put it up twice. I don't know.
It's a direct message.
Yeah, even in the common
Ma'am, I
one I
can't
have.
see. I don't know, ma'am. I can't see.
Just scroll
If you want personal, I tried it. Okay, now I can see. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Good
And
night,
thanks,
and
Sana.
thank you, Sana.
Good
Thank you
night.
very
Good
much.
night. Thank you for
Good night.
inviting me. I enjoyed
Right.
being with everyone here. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you, Sana. Thank you all. Good night.